Says we should be receiving content right now. The audience should be able to see it in a minute. We are live.
All right. Hey, everybody.
Can you
Welcome
see
to
us?
Tough Talk. I think we are live. I want to make sure that we are good to go. And I think we are. We're good. All
All
right.
right, good. Wow.
Finally. All right. We had some technical difficulties,
Yeah, we totally
and
didn't do this
sorry about
before.
that. Yeah, that's all right. But we're going to give you what the episode you're looking for today, and we'll go back to our normal scheduled time next week as we have taken care of all these technical difficulties. It's the first time that we're going live on YouTube. We should have thought that this was happened, but it's all good. All right, today's episode 2 of Tough Talk, we're going to give you a AFC NFC preview. Derek, how's it going?
It's not going too bad. It's going to be interesting to do this. Where do we want to start? Do we want to start in the NFC?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's change it up. A lot of people would like to go alphabetical order, but not us. Let's do NFC. So NFC North, you had a fantastic divisional battle last year, and the Chicago Bears wound up being victorious. Kind of a change in the NFC North. What do you like about this team? Do you think it's going to be another repeat for the NFC North here for the Chicago Bears?
I really do. I like a lot of things about this team. The Adrian Amos, Clinton Dix thing. I think that's interesting. I kind of want to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Yeah, the haha Clinton Dix and the Amos swap there at safety. That's so weird, especially because it's in the division. You know, Amos going to the Packers and Clinton Dix moving over to the Chicago Bears, and it wasn't a trade. It was just each of them got signed. That's so crazy. I think the addition of haha Clinton Dix is definitely going to be something that Chicago is going to like. I think that's definitely an improvement on that defense. They had 37 takeaways last year. It was absolutely crazy. Or 39, 39 or 37. But the fact that those many turnovers and all that pass rushing that Chicago had, that defense is amazing. And then adding Clinton Dixon to that lineup, it's wow. Yeah, it's going to be a great defense. I don't know if they're going to be as good. They do have some changing on the coaching side. I'll let you talk about that. But I think they're still going to be one of the top three defenses in the NFL.
That's where I was just about to go with this, actually, is because we were talking about how good the defense could
Mhm.
be. And it could be really, really good.
Yeah.
Vic Fangio last year made this defense look really, really good. How is Chuck Pagano going to make this defense look, though? He was the co-defensive coach of the Raiders last
Hmm.
year, and the Raiders were
Yeah.
trash on defense. Just absolute trash. I'm a Raiders fan. We were absolute trash on defense, and I couldn't stand it. It was just kind of frustrating all year to keep seeing the same thing. We weren't putting pressure on the quarterback. We weren't being the same thing. So is that what Chuck Pagano is bringing to the Bears? Is he not going to bring pressure? They say he's going to try to bring some unique zones and some unique blitzes, but I don't see it being a real thing. I don't see that actually going to be a thing. I think maybe it's just going to be the talent's going to have to show how good it is, and they have some real talent on that team. You had Akeem Hicks last year who had a 7.5 sacks. You had Mack who had 12.5. Leonard Floyd, who's supposed to be Mack's backup, he had 4 sacks, but I think he could be more in the 7 to 10 sack range. And the reason I say that is because they did use a first round pick on him just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Um, but let's go ahead and flip to the offensive side of the ball real quick. Matt Nagy, really
Hmm.
offensive minded coach, really good with the trick plays,
Yes.
and he just got Cordero Patterson in there to do his thing. How do you think he's going to fit in with that team?
Yeah, I like the versatility of Patterson. I think he's going to fit in fantastic in the crazy Nagy system of the trick plays and whatnot because he's really good at the end arounds and so on and so forth. He did that very well in his career. So I think Patterson is going to be a good addition to this offense. This offense is already a fantastic. Trubisky, if he has a season like he had last year, this team is well on their way. I like Cohen,
Absolutely.
and they're definitely going to lose. They're definitely going to be hurting with Howard, with the loss of Howard at running back. But they went and got Montgomery in the draft, so it's definitely going to help a little bit. But I don't think that he's going to be able to fill Howard's shoes 100%. But I do like Montgomery here.
I like the addition of Montgomery as well, and they also brought Mike Davis in to be that. Like we talked about, third string. He's also going to do
Yeah,
some other things on the field. It's going to be nice. Like you said,
yeah.
Trubisky. I think there's nothing but bright sides for this kid's future. I don't think he's
Mhm.
your typical Bears quarterback where they just, Kyle Orton or who else do you want to name on the list of
Yeah.
quarterbacks that was
Rex
so
Grossman.
Rex Grossman. Oh my goodness, Rex Grossman. But just subpar quarterbacks that had good weapons and they had a really good defense that carried them along the way. So it's the real question of how does this defense or how does this offense look? And I think the addition of Cordero Patterson is going to be interesting because he's also going to help on special teams because his team wasn't the best on special teams last year. You had Tariq Cohen back there a lot doing special teams duties, and if he's going to be your primary back, he
Mm-hmm.
can't be back there all the time like that. That's just going to be a bad thing. I think
Yeah.
again, it's going to be the defense carries. Trubisky's still going to be growing, but I really think he's going to be good in this system. I really think him and Matt Nagy continue to grow together, continue to develop together, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. The only downside I see, though, in the entire thing is Chuck Pagano. Is he going to be the play caller? Is he too passive, or does he go aggressive and make this defense look good?
Yeah, and that's true. I think Pagano. I think one of his issues last year, obviously, was the fact of the talent that he was dealing with in Oakland, and then compared to the talent he's going to be dealing with in Chicago. I think it's definitely going to benefit him more in Chicago with his play style. It's just to see if that play style will
Well,
actually fit with the talent that he has here in Chicago. Talking about the Patterson a little more, yeah. Not only does he help with the Nagy offensive system, yeah, he's great on special teams because you don't want Cohen to take those special team anymore. If he's going to be your true number one, you don't have Howard, and you don't want to rely your all your snaps on a rookie in Montgomery. You just don't know what to expect out of him yet. So Patterson is going to be very helpful on special team side. But moving back to the defense, absolutely, Pagano is going to be a big question of what he can do with this number one defense that Chicago carried throughout the season last year.
I just had a question, and I kind of want to throw it at you, and it kind of just hit me in the back of the head. You think Chuck Pagano is just trying to chase Khalil Mack so he can do some things with Khalil Mack? You think
Hey.
that's what happened? He went to Oakland. He's like, oh man, I got Khalil Mack in here. I could do some things. I could do this. I could do that. I could do this. I could do that. John Gruden, no, no, no. You're taking no. Okay, so now we got him over here in Chicago. Maybe he's just chasing Khalil Mack around, trying to get Khalil Mack so he can do something with Khalil Mack and get Khalil Mack over that because we've never really seen that Mack. We could see that Khalil Mack. In my personal opinion, I've seen enough tape on Khalil Mack. He could hit 20 sacks in the season if
Oh
utilized
yeah,
properly. And that's terrifying to
absolutely.
think of. And then maybe that's what Chuck Pagano could bring to the team. Or maybe he'll just be stale on play calling and it'll be a 16th ranked defense because the talent is what has to do it on bad play calls. So
Yeah, I think Khalil Mack is going to have a fantastic season this year. There's no doubt about that. He could very well meet that 20 goals, that 20 goal, I should say. Oh man, 20 sack season. I'm thinking about the Stanley Cup right there. It's Gold Blues. I hope they finish it off. But I'll tell you 100%. I think that Khalil Mack's sacks are going to improve in the division 100% because of the lack of offensive line on the other teams, which we'll talk about, and that's definitely a glaring need that we see there. But Chicago, I think, is just running away with this division. I think there's a big gap between Chicago and the other three teams,
yeah, I think they just
and
get
I don't
better.
think that, yeah, and I don't think it's going to change at least for the next couple of years. Definitely this season. So okay, I like Chicago. I think you like Chicago.
So let's talk about what we
We'll
don't
talk
like.
about yeah, that's true. Well, let's go from top to bottom in the aspects, and let's talk about the Detroit Lions, Motor City. What do you
Oh.
like about Detroit? If there's anything else, I like what you think about Detroit. I think it's hilarious. So go ahead.
Okay, so the one thing I do like, we've talked about, is I like TJ Hawkinson as a player.
Yes.
That's all I like about.
Oh
And I
wow.
don't even think they
Okay.
should have
So he's
taken him. I think they should have taken Ed Oliver. I think they should have
yeah.
taken Ed Oliver. I think they missed. I think they screwed up. I think Matt Stafford, they need to be looking for the replacement for him. I don't know why they think he's the guy. He's averaged 40 sacks a season. Worst number I think I've ever seen. 40 sacks a season. Pretty outrageous. And then guess what he had last season? He had 40 again.
Yeah.
So, and then you have a defense. They were 16th in points last year, 10th in yards, and
hmm
11th in sacks. It's not a horrible defense, but they're still just not a great offense. So, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of holes that need to be filled in this Detroit team, and the fact that they have given up 40 plus sacks in the last two seasons and then lose the star guard, if you want to say star, but their number one offensive lineman in TJ Lang.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
about to
it's
say
just not helpful.
losing their star guard kind of is a stretch to me, in my opinion, because they still gave up 40
Yeah.
sacks while he was there. So, how? much of a
Yeah,
star is he?
he
But
was an impactful player on that line though, and then he's gone. So that's something that you just have to still put in perspective. I don't see that line getting any better. TJ Hawkinson, I love the pick. I was really happy as a Bills fan sitting at 9 when Detroit came up. There was Hawk and Oliver, and I told myself, hey man, either way, we're gonna get one of these guys. I was pretty stoked. Happened to
see,
be at Oliver.
Hawkinson to the
Buffalo
Bills
got a
makes
steal.
yeah, Hawkinson to the Bills would have made way more
Yeah,
sense than Ed Oliver. But Ed Oliver is because it was best player available, and Hawkinson just got taken. Just like you guys just took another tight end.
yeah,
You guys remember Eric Ebron, right? Like that dude ain't
right.
done nothing in his time in Detroit. And
Hmm.
I, so we've talked about this, and I kind of want to reach on it again. Matt Stafford. You think
Hmm.
he's? Tell me what you think, and then I'm going to talk about what I think, and we'll go
Well,
from there on him.
I think Matt Stafford he's an intelligent quarterback. I think he is. I think there's a reason why he got paid all that money he did. I think that he can make those decisions if he has the time, but he obviously hasn't had the time in the last 2 seasons, and that's unfortunate because that's when he got his contract extension. So everybody sees it almost like that he got this the sickness that people do after the contract extensions, and it's just unfortunate. Obviously, he lost some big name receivers, and he's dealing with that right now too. And he's not very good at being versatile with football, but his intelligence as an actual quarterback, I like. He's a guy that I think that is just on a bad team. If he went somewhere else, I think he'd succeed.
Okay. Now, in my opinion on Matthew Stafford, because you told me you laughed when I sent you
All
the
right,
message on it.
I did. I sure did.
I think he's slow on progressions.
Mm.
I think he doesn't target his receiver. I think he targets the number one receiver way too much. If you go back and look at the stats, last year he had 1,000 yard receiver. Second receiver was 500 yards. Before that, you had Golden Tate as his primary receiver, and then you had who is the secondary. I wait for you to tell me. Before that, you had Megatron as the primary receiver, who I'm so mad that didn't get added, but we're going to go ahead and talk about it again. Megatron, who is a Hall of Fame wide receiver, and there's no doubt in my mind he's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. And he targeted him like crazy. At times he was targeting him in triple coverage. I'm like, who throws to somebody in triple coverage? Somebody else had to be open at that time, but you threw to Megatron. Like Megatron can get it, but come on, man.
I want to say Megatron's a Hall of Fame receiver, but I just don't think he played enough. I think that I know that you could easily probably argue Barry Sanders right now, and it's hey,
Yep,
it's weird, same team, right?
that's the Barry
But it's
Sanders, and
just
it's the Detroit curse. I think it is. I think it's truly a curse.
that's yeah, that's true. I don't know. If I had to say, I would say he's not. I'd say he's not a Hall of Famer. And you say he is. I don't know. All right, if you're watching right now on our live stream or anytime, go ahead and hit us up on Twitter with the hashtag Tough Talk, and you let us know: is Calvin Johnson a Hall of Fame player? Does Megatron deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? I want to know. I'm sure Derek wants to know your opinion
Yeah,
too.
absolutely, I do, because this is one of the
I
most
just
interesting things we keep pounding on this subject of it, and I really do believe he left the game too early. Yeah, but so did Barry
absolutely.
Sanders, and Barry Sanders left in
Oh,
his
for sure.
prime. And if both of them would have played on, they're without a doubt wholeheartedly Hall of Famers. But Megatron wanted out, and Detroit didn't want to let him out, so he left.
Yeah.
And can you blame him? He didn't want to be there with a subpar offense, with no defense, and just sitting there doing all he can to carry a team.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
can't blame him, but it ruined his legacy. That's how I feel
did
about
it?
it. Yeah, I think so.
He left in the offseason. He didn't leave in the middle of the season. He didn't pull Vernon Davis.
Yeah.
I love Vernon Davis. He's from
Avant
Illinois. Or Vontae Davis. I'm sorry, not
Vontae
Vernon.
Davis. I'm
Vontae
tired of
Davis.
halftime.
But
Come on, I know all about it. Come on.
right, yeah. But, I mean, he was from Illinois, so I was a big fan of him because he actually made it and did good in the league. But he didn't pull Avante. He didn't leave early. He didn't give up on his team. He let him know in the offseason, I'm done. You don't let me out. You won't let me out. I'm done. You won't bring in the right work, the right help. We're done. I'm done.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that was the offensive line, which is still a problem because it's been 40 sacks since the time Matt Stafford came in and he's been healthy. Darn near every season he's been in this league has been 40 sacks a season. And he's like, get him some help. Help him. Put somebody in front of him so he could throw the ball. They didn't do it.
No, I agree. I 100% agree.
But
Yeah.
I think it's a weak roster. I think the running
Yes.
game. You had three backs last year for 1,600 yards. I think that's a weak roster. I think the defense it was okay, but I think it could be way better. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have
Detroit's
any
got a
other
lot of holes
thoughts
to
on
fill.
them?
Detroit's got a lot of holes to fill, and I feel like just adding a tight end in the first round wasn't enough. They should have traded back. They should have got more, but it's in the past. They can't do it. They got to look ahead, and so far they're not adding what they need to do it. So we'll see what happens, but they they just don't do it for me in this division. So
All
all
right,
right,
let's
let's go
go
on to a
from
new. Uh, let's go to the Green Bay Packers. Let's check
okay.
that out. The Green Bay is a team that obviously revolves around the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers.
You mean
And
LeBron? Oh wait, no,
Aaron
you mean Aaron.
Rodgers,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. I don't mean Aaron. I mean Aaron.
I thought you meant
And
LeBron,
he's
like his brother. They're both
oh
GMs. They both do
yeah,
everything
right.
for the team. I thought you meant him for a minute.
Yeah, and I mean he's obviously that's the kind of style that it seems like is happening in Green Bay. Is that he has all of the pull? It almost seems like that. But Rodgers is a great quarterback. He's obviously a Hall of Famer. He would be a Hall of Famer if he didn't play a single snap for the rest of his career. There's no doubt about that. There's no one that could fight me on that one. I truly believe Rodgers is a Hall of Famer. If he's healthy, he's played and he plays all 16 games of the regular season, which has happened 7 times in his career while starting. He's thrown for 4,000 yards in 6 of those seasons. And in that exception season, 2015, he threw 3,800 yards and some change. So he's basically right there. So you can expect for Aaron Rodgers to throw for 4,000 yards if he's going to play all the games. And that's fantastic. But the question is, can he do it again with the weapons that he has now that we just lost someone who was there for 8 seasons, and that's Randall Cobb, who went to the Cowboys? What do you feel about that?
I feel Randall Cobb is a big loss. Devonte Adams is your number one is going to be tough. He only had 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns. That's a decent season, but that's also Aaron Rodgers targeting him a lot. Uh, Jimmy Graham, in my opinion, I don't think he's going to be the answer for tight end. We talk Mercedes Lewis. We could talk about him, but I think he's on the wrong side of his career. I think he's
Okay.
going to be third string at best. I don't see a lot of weapons around Rodgers. The run game doesn't look bad. Run game had 1,100 yards between Jones and Williams last year, and Jones ran for 728. And now
Yep.
they went ahead and drafted another Williams. They drafted Dexter Williams, and I think he could be a
Yeah.
big addition. I think he could really help back there in the backfield and keep some of the pressure off of Rodgers because Rodgers can't seem to get off of his butt. He keeps getting knocked down a little too much for my liking, and maybe that's why
Absolutely.
he
Yeah.
can't stay healthy. I
Yeah,
think he's
Aaron
on the
Rodgers
wrong
was
side of
sacked
his career.
49 times. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers was
Jeez.
sacked 49 times last year. That was the third most in his career and the most since 2012 for Aaron Rodgers. And you just can't have that when you have a quarterback made of glass. You can't. So with that receiving core, um, Randall Cobb with his hamstring injury last year, who missed 6 games, that hurt. Aaron Rodgers only threw for 25 touchdowns last season. That is the worst in his career if he starts all 16 games. By a long shot, might I add, too. A long shot. So the receiving core is something definitely that needs to be looked at, especially in the slot. They should have addressed that in the offseason. They didn't do it. They should have looked at Cole Beasley or a Seth Roberts or someone like that to really look and add into
Absolutely.
the slot. They just did not do that. I like Geronimo Allison. I know he's not on a lot of people's radar, but he was fantastic last year at the beginning of the season. He made crucial catches in the first week again in that comeback against Chicago. He made great plays in week 2 with that tie against Minnesota. And then he got hurt. He got hurt in week 5, I think, or week 4. And he didn't really play at all the rest of the season. I think he played one more game, but it obviously wasn't 100% because then he was done for the rest of the year. If he can stick around, I think he could be your number 2 if he stays healthy. Devontae Adams, I like him. I do. I think that he's a guy that he gets open. He is early with his routes. He can get open quick. It's just the fact that he doesn't have anybody on the other side of him. So he's probably going to be doubled a lot. Talking about that tight end history there, yeah, Jimmy Graham, he's definitely on the decline, hands down. He was second on the team in receiving last year in Green Bay, but that's not saying much because he only had 600 yards. It just wasn't a thing. Somehow Aaron Rodgers still threw 4,000 yards last year. I don't know how he did it because he just divided it up so much. There was a lot of injuries in that receiving core, but they don't have anybody to step up. Jimmy Graham, yeah, he's on his decline. I can see him possibly losing his number one spot sometime this season, and maybe he might even be on the trading block if Green Bay decides to be sellers. I think Jay Sternberger, their draft pick from Texas A&M, I think if he fits in and he plays anything like he did under Jimbo Fisher, could be fantastic for this offense. And Mercedes Lewis, he's a great number 3. If they decide to keep 3 tight ends, which most teams do, and I think that that'll be a fantastic 3 tight end team for Rodgers, who's hurting on the offense receiver side, especially in that slot. And that's the number one key. I keep saying it because you move to the running game. The running game only had 1,100 yards last year. Yes, we question the offensive line, but that also moves to that slot and that receiver threat. They're not going to worry about, or they're going to they're going to stack the box as much as they can, and they're going to shut down that running game because they don't have to worry about receivers as much on this Green Bay squad. So the running game also gets hit when you have receivers that in question. So another thing to wonder when you're worried about Green Bay's offense, the slot and the receiving only, the slot and the running backs, only because the running backs are going to have more people to deal with in the box. I like Dexter Williams. He played fantastic in Notre Dame. And I think Aaron Jones was great last season. He only had 700 yards, but he was good for when he needed him. They have those nice running plays with Montgomery every now and again that work out pretty great. But Green Bay needs some work on their receiving core if they want to be a contender in this division.
Okay. So let's go from one receiving core to another. Adam Thielen just got paid a bunch of money. He had 1,400 yards last year with the Minnesota Vikings. Yep. Did really good. He looked really good. We really liked the production of him. Cousins did good last year. In my opinion, I think he did good other than, 40 sacks.
Yeah.
What do you think about this offense? Give me a couple ideas of what you think about this offense.
I think Adam Thielen's going to be fantastic. I don't think he's going to have the contract extension syndrome like the Sean Alexander sickness.
The Sean Alexander
I don't think that's
flu.
going to. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen with this guy. This guy's fantastic. But I mean, this guy was unexpected to be good anyways. This guy, who knew what this guy, who this guy even was in the first couple of years of his career, and then all of a sudden he's getting picked up left and right on waiver wires and fantasy. Stephon Diggs, great receiver, fantastic. Kirk Cousins, I don't think, in my opinion, did not have a great season last year. I think he was learning the schemes of his new offense, but I think that's going to change this season. I think he's going to be fantastic. I think he's going to step it up. And I think the real question for Kirk Cousins is, can he be a playoff contending quarterback if they make it that far to the playoffs?
Well, see, let's take out this one thing. Sorry about that. Let's take out one thing real quick, and let me just throw 2 numbers at you and see what you think about these numbers. 4,300 yards, 30 touchdowns.
Yep.
Yeah, 4,300 yards, that's good numbers. Now, if we add in the 10 interceptions and the 40 sacks, that's where he needs to improve. But I think for a first year in a system, he did pretty good for that team. I think he did good. I think he did good adjusting to a new team. I guess I should have said it like that when I said it, but I think he did good adjusting to that new team. Sorry about that. Go ahead with the rest of your point.
You're good. I think Kirk Cousins just doesn't get the respect that he deserves. Yes, he definitely had some shaky moments. There's no doubt about that. But he was learning a brand new offense. He just got traded there, and he is going to be fine this season. Kyle Rudolph, I think, is another big question for this offense because we don't know. There's talks that he might get traded. We don't know what's going to happen to him. He's fantastic. He's probably the best tight end in the NFC. He's probably number 2 in the NFL behind Travis Kelce.
Silly. If they want to trade him, that's ridiculous.
There's no talks to say if he's going to be in their long-term plans, so we don't know what's going to happen. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens later on in the year. I think they find a way to extend this guy. I think they're going to contend for a spot later on in the year, and I think they're going to be buyers more than sellers. If you even contend that actually, if they're going to make any kind of transactions, I don't think they're getting rid of this guy. But that's just my opinion. I think if they are going to, they're going to do it already. And if they do, it's going to happen before the season. It won't happen in the middle. Don't see Minnesota being a type of team that's going to be out of contention towards the trade deadline this season.
Do you see Bradbury fitting in with that offensive line any? Like, how do you see him fitting in, I guess, is the words I'm trying to ask here. How do you see Bradbury fitting in with this offensive line? They allowed 40 sacks last year. Cousins needs some time because he has the targets. He just needs the time. I think
Yeah.
he'd have less interceptions if he had more time. He'd have less sacks, less interceptions, and we're probably looking at 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns out of Cousins. Which at that
I think that's
point,
hands
then you
down.
have to respect him.
Yeah, I think hands down that he would have less interceptions if he has more time. I think almost any quarterback would have that, especially someone
Except
as
Jamarcus Russell.
versatile and yeah, okay, maybe. All right. Real actual quarterbacks, all right? So um I think he'll have a lot more time to make better decisions. But when it comes to Bradbury, I mean, that's a good addition. I wouldn't say great, but it's good. It's definitely not a scapegoat for this offensive line though. It's something that needed to be addressed, but I don't think it's something that's like, oh my God, we got Bradbury, it's over.
Yeah, I'm
The
not quite sure
sacks
they
are
went that
done. No,
why they
it's
went that way. That's kind of why I was asking is because I'm not quite sure why they went that way. I kind of scratched my head at their
yeah.
pick. And so that's why I kind of brought him up to you
Hmm.
because I was like, did you see him as this standout stud who's gonna give Kirk Cousins another 2 seconds in the pocket? Because I didn't see that
Yeah.
guy when I was watching the tape on him. I saw a second round pick and they took him in the first, so I was really confused with that. So
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to. That's why I threw his name out there because I felt like he was over sought after this by this team. What do you think about
I
the
agree.
run game between Dalvin Cook, Latavius Murray last year, 1,200 yards? Bring in Madison from Boise State. How do you think that tandem works? Do you running by committee? Somebody takes the lead and somebody takes the backup.
Well, I think they'd hope that Dalvin Cook takes the lead. I mean, they definitely want that guy to be the number one. They've wanted that ever since he got hurt his rookie season. I'm sure that's what they want. But when you talk about the running back cores of with the one or two players, even three players, like we're talking with Minnesota and Green Bay, I think when you talk Green Bay, the running backs they have the possibilities of being good, but they have the offensive line to worry about. They have the receiving core to worry about. It's not as much as expected it's going to happen. When it comes to Minnesota, though, I feel like the expectations of this running back core is way higher. They're more high octane. They're definitely more of a running team, in my opinion, compared to Green Bay, just for on the fact of talent. So I think that you're going to see more running from these guys. I hope Dalvin Cook goes off. I think he's going to have a better season. I think you're going to see a lot more limited carries from Murray. I think Madison takes some of his carries, but I think Cook takes the number one. I think you see a slowly transition from Madison to Murray into a number 2, 3 spot, and then Murray might become that guy left off and ready to spectate.
Which would be kind of crazy because just a couple of years ago he was a deep back doing a really good job
Yeah.
carrying a good workload. But this new running back by committee thing that the NFL is,
Mhm.
I kind of like it, but at the same time I don't because you expect a back to be 1,000 yard back, and you're not seeing many of those anymore in the NFL. And it's just
Yeah.
like each week we see less and less. Maybe I don't like it because I like fantasy football, so I want these guys. I don't want to have to pick three guys off the same team to get the one guy's results. But
Yeah.
I get that the workload will help and that it'll extend every one of them's career, and you will get a better workload or better work out of each one of them throughout the season. So I do like it in that aspect.
Yeah, I've liked the running back committee ever since you had the mid 2000s New York Giants when you had Barber and Bradshaw and Brandon Jacobs. That was one of my
Oh my
favorite starting
goodness.
of that running back committee. That was such a fantastic run, and then I think that added on. I think that's what really started it in this last 10 years or so to make that more versatile. You got
Absolutely.
your power back, your sweep back, your receiving back, and I think it's fantastic for the sport. I think it definitely opens up more skill sets for these players on offense.
All right. So you want to talk predictions? You wanna you wanna
Yeah.
you wanna
So
hear
yeah,
what
we
I
already went
got?
through the four. Yeah, I do. I want to see what you got first. What do you got for the NFC North predictions?
All right. I'm gonna do something fun here. We're gonna go all the way
All
to
right,
the
let's hear it.
bottom, and I'm gonna tell you who I got as my
Oh,
bottom team. We're gonna go from the bottom up here. Okay.
okay.
I
All
got
right.
a dumpster fire in Detroit. Uh, the city itself has been on fire recently. I feel for you guys
Oh
out there,
man,
but
he's
we're
going deep.
3-13 is what I got the Lions at. I don't think Matt Stafford's going to do much this year. I think he doesn't have any weapons for bad. I don't know what he's going to. Offensive line is bad. You said TJ Lang was their veteran guard. I mean, they had 40 sacks with him, so let's just adjust and say they have 50 sacks this season. You ever heard of a 50 sack
Yeah.
season or 50 sack team making the playoffs? No, I got them at 3-13 because I think they're going to just be absolutely horrible this season. The only bright side they have is a slight defensive nod, and TJ Hawkinson is going to look good out there if he can be the only person Matt Stafford looks at because he doesn't look at other progressions. He's going to go, oh, he's in the middle of the field. Let's go to him. All right. So, go to the Packers now, 9-7. Now, these next two teams, they could easily
Okay.
flip flop, and I'm going to tell you why they could flip flop here in just a minute. They could flip
All
flop
right.
because of Aaron, because he could either do good or he could mess. But I think he could lead
All
him
right.
to a 10-6 record. Or I think he could be at 9-7. The team wholeheartedly is him, and it's what he does. He decides what happens. He's the GM, he's the head coach, he's the quarterback. Sometimes he might try to find a way to be a wide receiver too. We don't know what's going to go on this season because Aaron, he's taken over and he's doing everything he wants. But I still think even with him
Mm-hmm.
being at the helm, 9-7 because they don't have the offensive line to hold up to help him in front. And I think they lost the trade in the Adrian Amos Clinton Dixon trade off. I think they lost that trade off, and I think that
Oh
the
yeah.
Clinton Dixon is going to be better with the Bears, and I think Amos is going to kind of fall off when he gets to the Packers. All right, so here we go. We got the Vikings as the second team in the division at a 10-6 record.
All right.
I think Kirk Cousins is going to develop this year. He's just going to get better. I think maybe, just maybe, they can get less than 40 sacks, maybe like 37 or something, and he can get a 10-6 record because he has enough. He has the weapons. There's no
Yeah,
doubt
he
in my
does.
mind he has the weapons. The defense, however, has only a couple of bright spots on it. They have Danielle Hunter and they have Harrison Smith. Danielle Hunter had 14 and a half sacks last season. And Harrison Smith is Harrison Smith. If you don't know who he is, just go put on the tape.
Yeah,
You
he's
watch.
elite.
I'm about to say you watch
He's
5
elite.
minutes of his tape, you get the idea who this guy is, and you
Yeah.
know why he's
It's
taken where he's
fantastic.
taken. Uh, and then be ready for the number because we know the Bears are in first in the division,
Okay.
14-2.
Ooh. Wow. Okay. Wow.
14-2. I think Trubisky comes out. He manages this offense. He does a good job managing this offense. I don't think there's another team in the NFC who really compares with them other than the Eagles and the Rams. That's the entire NFC, I believe that. And I think this team goes 14-2. I think this team is next level. I think the word elite defense needs to be said with this team. I think anything other than that would be just you hating on the Bears because
Yeah.
this defense is just outstanding, and you have a young core on offense who can do nothing but build. So yeah, 14-2 is what I had the Bears at. So what do you got?
Well, I have to agree with you at number one. I think Chicago is the going to be the winner in this NFC North. I do, but I don't have it 14-2. I have them at 12-4. However, I do see them as the number one seed in the NFC. I think 12-4 is a number you're going to see a lot in the NFC this season, at least a few times. But I think they wind up winning that tiebreaker, whatever it is, and they are the number one seed in the NFC. I do like Chicago. I think they're exciting. That defense is going to be fantastic still. I think even under Pagano, I don't think they'll be as good, but they'll still be a top three. It'll be good enough for them to win this NFC North. For number two, I also have Minnesota. I have Minnesota sitting at 10-6. Would be good enough for a six seed in the NFC. So Kirk Cousins would get his playoff chance with the Vikings. We get to answer that question. Will he be a playoff quarterback? I think that he's going to have a hard time going into a certain whatever team it is, which would be the three seed in this case. So only time will tell, but they have some great players on their offense. Their defense is a little shaky in certain areas, but I think it'll be enough for them to make the playoffs as that wild card team. In third place, I do have the Packers. We are agreeing on all four positions here, but I have Green Bay sitting at 8-8. And the reason that I have them sitting at 8-8 is just because I don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to be. Is he going to be the glass jar? He's going to be the guy that breaks every second. Does he get hurt, make a comeback? Who knows? And definitely that slot receiver position that just really, really scares me. And that the fact that they did not address the departure of Randall Cobb. They really didn't. And that just it shocks me. So we'll see what happens there. Yes, they did add a little bit to their offensive line and Billy Turner, but it's not something that's a huge addition. A little bigger than Bradbury, in my opinion, but just not that big. And probably the number one thing on their defense that worries me. You said that they lost the Clinton Dix and Amos signs, which I do agree, but their linebacking core. They lost Clay Matthews, they lost Perry, and they brought in two new players. We don't know what's going to happen there. So it's basically almost a brand new defense when you look at a couple of the players there. It's just a whole different kind of leadership in that locker room on the defensive side. So Green Bay is a scary team right now for me, so I have them sitting at 8-8. I know they have possibilities, but I think their ceiling is not as high as their floor right now. So I think that's maybe as high as they go. We'll see you later on when we talk these again. But that's where I got them. And then number 4, I don't have them as bad as your so-called dumpster fire. I think I have a little more faith in Matt Stafford. I have them sitting at 5-11. So real quick, I had Green Bay as the 8th seed in the NFC. Obviously not enough to make the playoffs, but they're number 8. And then I have Detroit at 5-11. They are the 13th team in the NFC. So I do have teams worse than them. I have 3 teams worse than them in the NFC. So we'll talk about them. But Detroit, they just have too many holes to fill. I just don't see it. I think Hawk could be very good. I think he can be fantastic. I just don't know why they spent a first-round pick on him when they had other glaring needs. So, yeah, that's where I sit. So we want to see what you guys know, too, when you guys are paying attention and watching this episode, or if you're watching right now, go ahead and hit us up with hashtag Tough Talk and let us know your NFC predictions. We also had a poll that just ended on Twitter a couple hours ago, and 84% of you said Chicago Bears were going to win this. So if you didn't get to hop in on that poll, go ahead and just comment on it and let us know what you think. Why do you think? Maybe would you agree with us? Chicago won, or do you have someone else? And we don't know why. So all right, let's move on.
If you think I'm like jock riding the Bears, go ahead and hit that hashtag Tough Talk. Quit jock riding the Bears, Derek. Because
quit jocking.
I really think Trubisky's going to grow, but we'll see. All right, so let's go over to the AFC now.
Absolutely.
And I think the team I want to talk about first, because it's, well, an interesting team with what's happened this year. The Steelers.
Yeah, absolutely.
You get Antonio Brown leaving in the offseason. He was your second best receiver. He had 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns last year. And you gave him away. You gave him for a third and a fifth. And if you take and look at the trades, if you look at what happened last year, John Gray made 2 good trades if you look at them, because he traded Cooper for a first and then brought in Antonio Brown for a third and a fifth. That makes him look good. We forget the Khalil Mack trade. That looks good over there. What do you think about this? How do you think that's going to help Juju Smith, who only had 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns last year?
Well, I mean, you say only 1,400 yards. He was great. He was fantastic. But
well, I meant the 7 touchdowns. Only 7 touchdowns with 1,400 yards. Those numbers really don't. It's like, I feel like he could have had more touchdowns. I feel like he could have been in the end zone more.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, look, Le'Veon Bell was already gone last year. I don't think that's even, you could even count that as a key departure, because that was a key departure last season. Connor was fantastic for Pittsburgh. I don't think you have to even worry about that addition or that kind of departure at running back. I'm sure most Steelers fans would agree with me that they didn't miss Le'Veon Bell. Connor did a fantastic job. I love his story. I love where he came from, the battles he had to face on and off the field. So Connor's great to me. But when it comes to Antonio Brown, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. I think they are aware of that too. Yeah, it sucks. They only got a 3rd and 5th round pick. They lost a lot of that contract, so that also helps too. But this isn't going to be something that Steelers fans and the Steelers team can just rip off the Band-Aid as much as they want to, because of the attitude that he possessed when he was leaving and how he acted on the way out. It just wasn't professional in my opinion. But it's going to be on the field. It's going to hurt. They're going to have to slowly take their time. And I think the fact that they added Deontay Thompson in the draft, and they also added Dante Moncrief in free agency, that'll help Juju Smith-Schuster not be on an island by himself. Moncrief is a vertical threat also, and that's gonna benefit him. I think the biggest thing on offense is they're just going to have to make sure that they can find that second receiver. to benefit them, whoever it is, and they're just gonna have to find it fast. But Big Ben does great. He's a fantastic quarterback. He's getting older. He's obviously on his decline. I wouldn't say by a lot. He's still a good quarterback. This offense has a lot of weapons still, so I wouldn't count them out just because they lost Le'Veon Bell, which was last year, and Antonio Brown. This defense, though, this defense is awesome. What about the rookie pickup? They traded the defense, or the Pittsburgh Steelers traded in the NFL draft up out of all things, and they got Devin Bush. How do you feel about Devin Bush?
I love this pick. I can't get over the fact that
Yeah.
he did this. First off, it says
Mhm.
something to you when the Pittsburgh Steelers move in the draft. The Pittsburgh Steelers never move in the draft. Go back and look.
I
The only
agree.
time they move is when they move down. They don't move back up. They saw something in Devin Bush. They went up. They took this kid. To me, he's a prototypical Steelers linebacker.
Mhm.
He's going to fit in well. Unfortunate what happened to Ryan Shazier. It's great that he's
Oh,
able
man.
to walk again and be with his family,
Yeah.
but I love the pickup of Devin Bush.
Yeah.
I think
Could
it's
you
a
only
great
Could
addition.
you imagine? Could you imagine Bush with Shazier and then T.J. Watt all together?
Who had 13
That's-
sacks
oh my
last
God.
season. It's
Oh,
only his second
man.
season in the NFL. He had 13 sacks last season.
Yeah. And not only do you add
that
Devin
family
Bush-
just plays ball. If you just look, that
Yeah.
that family plays ball.
Yeah.
I
And not only do you
love-
add Devin Bush, the Steelers also added Mark Barron. So I mean that linebacking core is solidifying themselves. Yes,
Yeah.
Mark Barron took a decline, and I'm sure you can tell me that the tackles, how it went from certain tackles to certain tackles. I think he had only 60 last season.
Yeah, he went
but
from 100 to 60 last season. Went
Yeah.
from 100 the year before last to 60 last year. That's a huge drop off.
but he's going to have a lot more support with him around
Absolutely.
Barron in that Steelers
Absolutely.
defense. I like that Steelers defense. I'm calling that a top 5 defense this season.
So my only issue with the defense,
Mhm.
their secondary. You got Hayden, who's
Yeah.
getting old. They just added Justin Lane.
Yep. They did.
There was they added somebody in free agency. You can tell me more about
Yep,
that one real quick.
Steven Nelson. Yep.
Yeah, and I believe that might help, but at the same time, I feel like that secondary is going to be so. The playoffs are always the playoffs. The Steelers are always the playoff team, and then in the playoffs, they either have that glaring issue that shows off, or they make it to the Super Bowl. That's the team. They either make it to the Super Bowl, or they have a glaring issue that every Steelers fan is cussing. That effing secondary, that effing offensive line, that effing wide receiver. So let's just go back real quick because my dad is actually a Steelers fan, and I just want to throw a little.
Okay.
This is going to be a funny to you.
Throw some
Okay?
shade.
We were watching the playoffs. We were watching Tim Tebow and the Denver Broncos playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you think
Need you to say more?
what do you think the issue
don't
was
think-
of the game?
No, I don't think you need to say anymore.
The secondary was the result. We found out it was the secondary that was the problem that year. So that's where it is
Yeah,
with this
absolutely.
team. I feel like they always make the playoffs, whether it's they come in top of their division, they come in the wild card. They always try to get in the playoffs, and then in the playoffs is where we see that's going to playoffs. Going to be that effing secondary again, like my dad was chanting. I believe 5 or 6 years ago when Tim Tebow threw that slant over the middle, Marius Thomas went to the house. I've never seen
absolutely.
his face so red, and it was pretty funny actually too. But,
Steelers are a team that plays fantastic on primetime. They have a lot of primetime games this season. They'll probably be a team that's battling for a playoff spot come week 16 and 17. I'm sure we won't see them out of contention if we even do
every year.
at any point of the season. But I'll tell you what, there's always a flaw when you said about the playoff position. I agree. But I'll take Big Ben in a playoff game almost any day of the week. He's been like that since he's been a rookie. He took him to the AFC Championship. Big Ben plays in the playoffs.
Unless the offensive line doesn't hold up for him. That's a big issue for him quite often.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay. All right.
And I want to hear your opinion because I just want to hear your opinion on. First, let's hear your opinion on Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton is most definitely on the decline. There's no doubt about that. Andy Dalton, I don't know how much he has left in the tank. He definitely did not look very good last season. It's hard for me to say that because he's one of my saviors. He helped beat Baltimore 2 years ago to get Buffalo to the playoffs, first time since '99. I hope he liked those Buffalo wings, but he's just on the decline. It's unfortunate, and they really haven't done a lot to fill his position. They got Ryan Finley later on in the draft. I don't know how he's going to act or how he's going to be. We'll see. I think we're going to see this season. There's a lot of issues with this Cincinnati team. They have glaring needs in the offensive line. They really only picked up John Miller this season, which really isn't a great addition. It's not something that's like super fantastic in my opinion. They had lost Tyler Kroft. They did pick up Drew Sample in the draft, so we'll see if that's a helpful crisscross, but I don't think so. I think it's not going to be as good yet.
They
we'll
also
see.
picked
but
up
I think
Jonah
that
Williams.
They did pick up Jonah Williams in the draft. I
And
think
maybe
that'll
that could help just a little bit on that offensive line, but I don't think the offensive line's going to be protecting Dalton. I think Ryan Finley's in there.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we'll see him sometime during the season. I think that they're going to be a team that's just out of it, and it might be early. And we see a lot of this guy, so we might get to see what Finley's made of.
Okay, so AJ Green,
Yeah,
another one of those receivers who's a very good receiver. I'm not going to say he's a Hall of Fame receiver. I think he doesn't come out and do good this year. I think that torn toe is going to take away a lot of this guy's spring because he is getting older. And I know he's probably still younger than me because I'm 31, but he's probably still younger than me. But in football years, he's getting older.
he might be around you.
Yeah, he might be right there. But I don't think he's going to do that good. I think they're going to rely on Joe Mixon a lot. He had 1,100 yards last year. I think he's going to probably have like 1,500 yards this season and have the most tired legs after this season because I don't think this team is good. The defense was 30th in points per game. They didn't do anything to address it. They were 20th in sacks. Tom Williams was the only thing they had going on for them, and he had 81 tackles and 5 interceptions. And he was probably out there with his hands on his hips just going, can I get somebody to help me out here? Can I get anybody to help me out here? Do I need to play offense too so we can do something out here? So that's what I really
I agree. I think and AJ Green, just like we were talking in the NFC North side with Kyle Rudolph, AJ Green has been talks about him being on the trade block as well. So that's something that might happen.
Him in New England.
Yeah, I hate seeing anything in New England, to be honest.
Me too, but imagine him in New England because Randy Moss. Everybody said Randy was past his prime. Giving up anything for Randy Moss was silly. Then Randy Moss came out and had one of the best years ever. So look at what I hate to say, but look what Tom Brady can do with a good wide receiver compared to the no-name wide receivers he takes and make look good, like a Danny Amendola or Wes Welker, who was just a middle-of-the-road receiver, and he makes them look like Hall of Fame potential.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I don't know who he'd go to if he even gets traded, but we'll see what happens. And there's a possibility, but I still don't like the Cincinnati team. I think they finish towards the bottom of the entire league this season.
You're going to laugh when I tell you where I got them finished. But okay. Let's go to the Ravens here.
All right, Pittsburgh's down, Cincinnati's down.
Yeah, let's go to the
Baltimore.
Ravens.
What do you got?
And where do we start here? Do we start with him replacing Eric Weddle with Earl Thomas? Because I love that move.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I say that would be probably the biggest transition on defense for sure with the additions is adding Earl Thomas. I think he definitely settles in very well. And I think the biggest addition, well, I would say not addition, but departure on offense, you'd have to say is the departure of Joe Flacco. You lost a quarterback who was there for a multiple amount of years. You have Lamar Jackson taking over. He's an explosive quarterback. He definitely is way more mobile than Flacco ever was. It's going to be a whole different kind of atmosphere. They're kind of looking towards speed. Other than one aspect, which is kind of ironic, and it's to running back, they added Mark Ingram, who's not really known for speed, but it gives them kind of a nice versatility. So I like what Baltimore has done this offseason so far. I think it was smart from them to move on from Flacco. We knew it was coming. We just didn't know when. And it finally happened for sure. But they also got Seth Roberts, which we were talking about earlier, how we were so high on him, and why he should have went to a team like Green Bay, but Baltimore got him first.
Absolutely. So the thing I really like is, like we said, we got rid of Joe Flacco here. Joe
Hmm.
Flacco was just a bunch of money. I think he's going to go to Denver and flop. I think so. We'll talk about that on a later episode, but I got Denver at the bottom of the league this year. They're bad. Um, I like the Lamar Jackson,
Yes,
but he had a lot of turnovers last year.
he did.
But he's versatile and he's entertaining. He reminds me of RG3 or Marcus Mariota.
Hmm.
Both similar games. But we're talking about a number one ranked defense here who lost the guy who led them in tackles. DJ
Yep,
Mosley is no longer on this team,
that's true.
and they just what do you do? I mean,
You lost a lot on defense. So I mean, other than having Earl Thomas, which is a fantastic addition, other than Weddle. So I mean, you can basically call Weddle a wash. Earl Thomas is solidified as the safety of the future, or at least for the next few years for Baltimore. But not only did you lose C.J. Mosley, you lost Zadarius Smith, and you lost Terrell Suggs. Now I know Terrell Suggs is on the decline of his seasons and his careers, but um, that's a leader in that locker room that's been there for a long time. Has been there since the Baltimore defenses that you think of when you think of greatest defenses of all time. I'm not saying they're the greatest defense of all time, but they are one of the greatest defenses of all time. That's the whole thing of the whole defense wins championship. Terrell Suggs was there, so that's something that you just miss out. You can't replace that. You can't replace that kind of leadership right off the bat. Not with somebody that they have replaced that they've got so far. You can't do that with a player who's been there so long. So that I think will hurt them in certain aspects, but I do like this team. I do like this team a lot.
I heard a glaring issue as soon as you said something. Zadarius Smith,
Hmm.
no longer with the team,
That's correct.
led the team last year with 8.5 sacks.
He sure did.
Nobody
He
had
did.
over
And
10 sacks last year. Does Jalen Ferguson step in and do something for this team, or is he just a middle of the road player?
well, Jalen Ferguson with the draft pick they had there, I think he could do something well. I think that they're they're not going to have to just rely on him. They also did pick up Shane Ray in the free agency market, so I think just having those two around, I think will be helpful for this team. But I don't think they're going to be able to fill the void of Zadarius Smith right off the bat.
I
I
don't
think that is going to be their flaw. They benefited well with Thomas, and they helped out with a little bit with Ray, and then get Ferguson. But you got some issues at your linebacking core, and you're going to have some issues at your pass rushing.
and see me personally. I think Jalen Ferguson might help some, but the issue is, and I want to address this. He did have off the field issues that the NBA or the NFL
Yep,
actually sent him home from the combine for
that's
because they
true.
found out he had prior battery charges. And
Hmm.
that can be an issue in the future. We have seen it with other players, and it is
Yep,
becoming a big thing where we could call it a wasted pick at that point because if they get in trouble, they're just gone and gone from the league. It
yep,
started with Ray Rice, and it's become a very serious epidemic in the league, and I'm glad it's being taken care of. But people
absolutely.
are losing picks.
Yep. And you know that Ray Rice is well, the way that they handled Ray Rice, Baltimore won't handle that either. If that happens, they'll handle it very
Absolutely.
professionally and they'll take care of it. I wish that there was a way, and I hope that NFL looks into this, that if there's some kind of if it's in the just I would say only their rookie contract, I would say that if something happens like that, that it's out of the team's control, that they're given maybe a comp pick. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Maybe like the round below they were originally drafted, or maybe
It's
two rounds below.
Is it that crazy that that it's an epidemic now that we have to look at?
It's unfortunate.
The Kansas City Chiefs just took another kid this year with off the field issues as well. It's just going to be interesting to see how this all really works out.
Yeah.
So we didn't even mention this, and I feel bad for not mentioning this. We mentioned
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson. We didn't even mention all the fun little weapons they just put around him this year. He had Gus Edwards in the backfield. We kind of touched on Mark Ingram. We didn't touch on Marquise Hollywood Brown. We didn't touch on Willie Snead. We
Exactly.
kind of touched on Seth Roberts. We didn't touch on Michael Floyd. We didn't talk about the other rookie, Jalen Smith. Like these guys went out and they literally did what we call the wide receiver by committee. We're going to find out who's the best, and if you're
Absolutely.
not the best, get off the field and somebody else will try to be the best. And I love it. I
Yep.
think that's the way you do it. I just wish they would have done the same thing with
Yeah, I
tight
was
end
hoping.
because there's nobody there that I can really like count on for Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson.
Well, Hayden Hurst is definitely he's trying to come up and about. He's still young. They Ozzie Newsome tried to get them with the tight ends later a couple of years ago, and I think they did well on that part. We'll see what happens. I think he's got about another year, maybe 2 years to really show what he's got. But talking about these receivers, I'm glad we actually waited to the end because I like this transition to our next team and our final team, the AFC North, is the fact that all these receivers, they're actually, I think, in my opinion, and I know this is probably pretty arguable and I like the debate, and I'm okay with it. But if you add all the depth of the Baltimore's receivers, I can personally say that they're going to have a harder time trying to find cuts in this offseason, in this preseason of the receivers. And I think that they overall will have the best receiver core, even in this division, even better than the next team we're going to talk about, the Cleveland Browns, even with their additions, just because of how much depth that they have with this team. I could arguably say that. I'm not saying it might not happen, but I think that that is a very possibility that all these players could be very well for this squad.
So let's talk about this next team. Are we start? Am
Yep.
I starstruck here? Because
I mean,
I remember when Beckham and Landry were at LSU together,
okay,
and that
all
was a
right,
lot of fun to watch.
it
Now you
was
got
that
them
was a
back.
good time.
Now you got them back together with
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield, who had a good season in his rookie season. He threw for
he did.
3,700 yards and 27 touchdowns as a rookie, and he
Uh-huh.
only started in
Yep.
13 games. He did have
Yep.
25
Yep.
sacks and 14 interceptions, but you're a rookie. Those things are going to happen. You know, the offensive
Yep.
line is not going to hold up the best, but 25 sacks, that's no 40 sacks like we've been talking about with other teams. So we could take those numbers. You have Nick
Yep.
Chubb behind you, who was 4 yards off of 1,000 yards last year. Like, who was not on the
Hmm.
sideline telling this kid to get in there and run for 4 more yards?
Yeah. Get one more carry. Yeah. I like Baker Mayfield. I think he's a fantastic quarterback. I think that those stats, yeah, the good stats hold him. The bad stats, hey, it's a rookie quarterback, and they're going to make
Absolutely.
mistakes, especially those ints. Whatever, I'll take it. He's got a lot of potential in this league. I like when they started him. He was 0-4 as a starter. They fired Hugh Jackson. Then he went 5-3 under his offensive coordinator, who didn't have any head coaching experience, who's now his head coach. So I think that it's going to be a fantastic season for Baker Mayfield. Now they add Odell Beckham Jr. I think it's gonna be great. The only thing I'm worried about is we're talking so much about this sexy pick, and they turn into the 2011 Philadelphia Eagles dream team.
I
I
know,
don't want
right?
that to happen. I don't want that
Uh,
dream team to happen. All right, let's
yeah,
not
I
have
know,
that
right?
happen. But I don't see it. I don't see it though. I
I don't
think that
see it
there's
going
way
that
more
way
talent
either.
on this team. I see Odell Beckham Jr. just killing it. He's going to be fantastic. You obviously knew. I mean, they definitely won that trade. The Giants knew that Beckham did not want to be there.
Or Vernon,
Cleveland won
because
that trade.
they
That's
get
true.
Landry or they get Odell Beckham and Olivier Vernon in
Yeah.
the same exact trade. That's like, go
Yeah.
ahead and go try that on Madden real quick. It's going to tell you trade declined every time. Just go
Yeah.
try it
Yeah.
real quick. It's going to
Absolutely.
say trade declined.
Absolutely.
It's not going to let you
Yeah.
do
Good
it.
try, bro.
Miles
Yeah.
Garrett had
Nick.
13 and a half sacks. They're going to be like, we don't want to put Olivier Vernon across from him. That's going to be silly. I mean, Jamie Collins did just leave town. And I think Olivier
Yes.
Vernon kind of fits that role a little bit. And I
Hmm.
think that's where that helps. But I want to go back to Nick Chubb here. He had only started
Yeah.
9 games last year, and he was 4 yards off 1,000 yards. I think the kid comes in
Yes.
this year, and he's gonna stand out. I get
Oh,
that
he's like,
we have Beckham and Landry on each of the outsides. This kid's gonna stand out because he's gonna be in the box, and he's gonna make you put 8 in the box. And then as soon as you do, that's when they're going to throw right over your head with Beckham and Landry, and I think that's going to be crazy to see. You also had Sheldon Richardson come in, which I think is just a great addition to that defensive line.
hmm
I think that's just going to make Myles Garrett's numbers go up even more because now you're going to even have to try to double Myles Garrett and leave Olivier 1-on-1 and Shelton 1-on-1, or you're going to have to fucking let Myles Garrett go. And I
yep.
don't see that happening. And I don't think you let that happen because he's so good. He's the next Khalil Mack, in my opinion. He has that same exact impact on the game. He impacts it in every aspect he can to try to win the game. And I see that in both of them. And I really
Yeah.
like Myles
Absolutely.
Garrett.
Absolutely. Going back to Nick Chubb's, yeah, that dude's your number one, no doubt. He only started 9 games, but absolutely. When Kareem Hunt comes into the season after his 8 week suspension, he'll give you some good sets too. But Chubb's definitely your number one. Duke Williams Johnson's, I know he's requested a trade. I don't know what'll happen with him, but
That's
he
a
was he
poor.
was a good receiving back.
That's a sad story
Yeah, he
because
was a good
he's a
receiving
good
back,
back.
but yeah, but he'll definitely give someone an asset whenever they go. He'll probably go to a different team for probably only like a fifth or sixth pick, maybe fourth at most. But yeah, Nick Chubb is their guy, and he's going to be explosive for that Cleveland team. That defense is going to be fantastic, especially in the front. That front is what it's really going to be. If I had to say any kind of questionable marks, it's going to be their linebacking core, just because it's not as solidified as I'd like it to be. And then we don't know what's going to happen with the loss of Jabril Peppers too. So
I like
losing
Greedy
that is also
Williams
going to
though.
be absolutely. But he's not a safety; he's a corner. So
Oh,
just that
I'm just
transition,
saying I like the Greedy Williams Denzel Ward addition. I like the addition of
yeah.
Greedy Williams to Denzel Ward. I think that's going to make that secondary slightly better. And like we talked
Hmm.
about, like they've signed so many people in the offseason that
Yeah,
maybe they sign somebody else. Maybe they trade Duke Johnson for a safety, or the pick to help get the safety.
yeah.
I honestly I was just sitting here thinking when you talking about Duke Johnson, he would look great in a Jacksonville Jaguars uniform, and I think he would really help Nick Foles in what Nick Foles does.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
I think that team would look really good with Duke Johnson in the backfield. Well,
Absolutely, I can
after
see
Leonard
that too.
Fournette's on the sideline, I guess I should say, but
Yeah. Well, I will say that they did try and address that safety position. They did add Morgan Burnett and Eric Murray this season. So I think they are at least trying to put some band-aids on that secondary spot. They did try to add, they added that. They added Philip Gaines and then also drafted Greedy Williams. So I think they knew that that was a need they had to address is their secondary. They got three in the free agency and they did draft Greedy Williams. So I think you'll probably see that more. You'll probably see a safety drafted next year too. Um, because this team is good, and if they can stick this core around for a long time, you might see a new king on top here in the next couple of years, or possibly even this year. Depends on what you got for predictions in the AFC North.
absolutely. Well, getting into predictions, why don't you go ahead and
Yeah.
tell me who you got in
All
first
right.
place?
I'll go first, and I guess I'll go from the bottom to the top,
Oh,
and you
okay.
can this time I'll change it up for you. Fourth place, and I have them 14th in the AFC. So I have two teams worse than them in the conference. I have the Cincinnati Bengals. I got them at 5-11. I just don't see them progressing. I think 5 games is actually I'm being pretty decent to them. I think that they
I
win
think
a
you are
couple
too, but we'll
games.
get to that.
I think they win a couple games when Finley takes the ball towards the end of the year. They're a little bit towards the end of the year. Their schedule gets a little nicer to them, other than divisional play, of course. They might not win a single game in division. This division is tough. But I see Dalton not starting off very well. Maybe at the bye week they make a transition to Finley just to see what this rookie can do. They start selling off whatever assets they have. I think we might see AJ Green go. Hopefully not to New England, like you're saying. So we'll see what happens there. But I got Cincinnati 14th in AFC, 5-11. Next, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I know that's not something that a lot of people like to hear. A lot of people have them as a favorite or close to a favorite, but I have them just missing the playoffs here. I have them as the ninth team in the AFC. I know it's not still a couple teams ahead of them, but I got them at 9-7, and I got another couple teams at 9-7, and that's why I tell them they just missed the playoffs by one game. I like Jackson. I like what they do here, but my biggest concern is that linebacking core. They're missing out on Mosley. They're missing out on Suggs, missing out on Smith, and they really didn't add as much as they should have. And I think that question right there is enough for me to just not get them in the playoffs. I think 9-7 is good because of their offensive threats, and they're still a good defense, but I just don't think it'll be enough. All right, so I got first place and second place here. Do I take the sexy pick? No, I don't. Cleveland Browns is number 2 in my opinion.
Okay.
I think they go 10-6, but I do think they make the playoffs. I think they are the 6th seed in the playoffs here. Baker Mayfield will get a chance to throw it to Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry in the playoffs, and try to get a playoff win for this Cleveland organization. I don't know if they'll be able to. They're gonna have to play a tough 3 seed, whoever that might be. But yes, they do get a playoff spot. I also have the Pittsburgh Steelers at 10-6, but I have them winning the division. Why do I have Steelers over Cleveland? because Steelers wins both games against Cleveland this season. I have them winning both 2-0. I think the only division game that Pittsburgh loses is one against Baltimore because they're always tough up against Baltimore. I think they go 5-1 division, and I think Cleveland goes 4-2, maybe even 3-3. And I got them at 10-6. So they'll put Steelers at a a fourth seed, and they'll play the fifth seed in the wild card matchup, which is going to be probably tougher than some of the other tough division winners. So we'll see. The fifth seed in the AFC, I think, is going to be pretty tough. I think they might make a run for it, whoever it might be. Probably someone in the AFC West, whoever finishes second there. So yeah, that's my team. I love Pittsburgh. I think they're going to be still. I think they still own the division. I think you can't count Big Ben out. I think Antonio Brown, it's going to hurt them, but not enough.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the Steelers where you ended. I got them in the first overall seed in the division at 11-5.
Okay.
I have them with 2 division losses. So I got them losing to the Browns at home and the Ravens at home. I think the Dog Pound is about to come out with a vengeance this year and be a hard place to play. I think they got something to cheer for finally, and that's a dedicated fan base. And there's few and far between of those dedicated fan bases out there, and this is one of them. And they're going to be out there cheering as hard as they can. So I got the Steelers losing at home to them and at home to the Ravens because, again, the Ravens are just the Ravens like you were talking about. Mm-hmm. But I got them winning both of the games at home against both of those teams as well. I got them beating the Bengals both times to be 4-2 in the division with an 11-5 overall record. Big Ben is Big Ben. That's all you really need to say.
Yeah.
Devin Bush could be Rookie of the Year. I'll go out as far as to say that right now. Devin Bush could be not just Defensive Rookie of the Year, Rookie of the Year in Pittsburgh.
Wow. Okay.
I believe he has that potential. I really do. And if the Steelers seen something like that in it, we got to be looking for it too. So, following them up, I got Baltimore at 11-5. They're also 4-2 in division because I think, like I said, Cleveland's going to be a hard place to play this year, and they're going to lose their game in Cleveland as well. I got them as a 6th seed, and they're just narrowly losing out on the 4 seed. But this could also be a flip-flop right here because I got the Browns at 9-7. And the reason these two teams could flip-flop is because they're both young quarterbacks, young teams, and we just got to see what these teams are. We're not quite sure what these teams are. We hope we know what these teams are, but you never know. So we got to figure out what that is. I do like everything going on in Cleveland. Cleveland seems to be making all the right moves, going in the right direction, but I feel like they just miss out on the playoffs this year. They're actually a 10 seed for me with the 9-7 record. Baker Mayfield takes another year, goes home, figures out how to do it, and does it better the next year. And then we're to Cincinnati. I don't really like ending on a low note, but that's what we're about to do. Because I got the Bengals at, are you ready for this?
Okay.
1-15.
Whoa.
1-15. I don't think Andy Dalton can do a thing in this division. I think he's over the hill. I think he's not the quarterback they need. I think Finley comes in. He's going to be confused. He's still going to be trying to learn the playbook. He's going to be learning plays each week as they're going on. I don't think the offensive line has any good anything. The only thing I see there is Joe Mixon, and I really hope Joe Mixon is enough. But I think it's one win. Joe Mixon has 1,600 yards rushing. Ryan Finley has probably 6 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, and 1,200 yards on the season because he's just going to come in like week 7, week 8, and he's going to throw a ton of picks because he's going to be new to the league. I think Andy Dalton's just going to look stagnant each week. He's going to have a bunch of incompletions. He's not going to have that crisp snap that he needs to the ball, and it's not going to be there. And he's losing his number 1 target in AJ Green because I don't think it's the same target it used to be. So yeah, I have him at 1-15. And I think they're not even the worst team in the NFL, which is the most exciting part of that.
What? Wait. 1-15 is not your worst team in the NFL?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm excited to see what these next episodes are for you when it comes to NFL predictions for sure. That's crazy. My God. Okay. All right. Well, Derek, what do we got for next episode next week?
Well, next Sunday, I want to go ahead and I want to do another mock draft. Went ahead and kind of lightly
Absolutely.
went over it. I want to go a little bit more into detail and tell you guys a few more things. I think we got a lot of fun things we're going to be talking about on that episode. Then we got something else coming on, a little bit of a special event. I'm going to go ahead and let you talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So remember, next Sunday, episode 3 will be a NBA mock draft 2.0, our final one before the Thursday Thursday draft. We're gonna go ahead and talk about what we think has changed. I think there has been some changes already, maybe some possible trades, and then on Thursday, June 20th, for the draft, Derek and I will be live streaming the NBA draft, having probably a couple brews, kicking it back, and watching the live reactions of how you feel about the draft, how we feel about it. And we'll be talking and having conversations with you over Twitter and here on YouTube chat. So definitely looking forward to that. So we got an episode next Sunday, and then we also have a special episode next Thursday during the NBA draft. Just round one, though. We're not going to get in the round two. That's just too crazy. We're not about that life. I'll probably be tweeting it round two, but I definitely am not going to be live streaming it because that's just not my forte.
Yeah, that
Round
doesn't
one,
sound like a lot of fun.
yeah, round one, Thursday live reaction. It's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. So, absolutely. Hey, Derek, thanks for this. This was a good time.
Yeah,
AFC, NFC
absolutely.
predictions. I know it's really early and it's June, but it's always cool to look back at this and see, hey,
How
look at what
far
we
off we
picked.
were.
Look what happened. Yeah, hopefully we're not that far off. I'm sure we'll definitely not be 100% correct. I'm sure we'll change when it comes in the next couple of months. We'll definitely have to do it one more time before the season starts, just to see what kind of changes have happened. We still have a lot of off-season OTAs still have happened. Unfortunately, we'll still probably have injuries, so some of these predictions will change. As soon as the NBA draft's over, we'll get right back into these divisional previews so we can get them all finished and then take another look at them later on. But yeah, absolutely looking forward to it, Derek. Thanks a lot, and thanks for listening to Tough Talk, guys. And we'll see you here next Sunday, 7 o'clock Eastern. And it will be at 7 o'clock Eastern. We will not have technical difficulties. We'll be ready to rock. Take it easy, Derek.
Absolutely. You guys have a good one.